Hey guys, it's Nathan, and this is going to be not like a marketing automation video. It's going to be more like an entrepreneurship story, and like a bit more like about my background and things like that. And I sort of get like, I don't know, now things have almost turned slightly into people actually want to hear like more about me rather than just the automations that I'm building. Like in the Slack channel, a lot of questions and stuff that I get is just focused on me and my like entrepreneurial journey, it's really interesting. So I just thought like this is going to be quite a long video. I just thought I'd share like the whole thing of how I started, like a bit of my life and my like life story, and just like the major parts. So like obviously my name's Nathan. Originally I'm from London, and at the moment I live in Georgia, Tbilisi. I've been out here for like a year now. I'm very well settled here. Like I just bought an apartment here the other day. I've got like a long-term girlfriend, and I really love it here. So I'm like 24 years old. I think that might come as a surprise to a lot of people. Everyone says I look much older than 24, and also I think like mentally, like I'm much more like mature than most other 24-year-olds my age, and so I think that plays a part in it as well. At least I hope it does. So like I'll start from the very beginning. So like I was born in London. I was actually adopted, which is I think quite a usually I don't talk about it unless like it comes up in conversation, but I'm completely like comfortable with it. If anyone asks and has questions, I'll talk to them about it. But I think it's just worth mentioning here because it does play a sort of part in my character in terms of like who I am, and I think that's quite interesting. That like I can be quite like emotionally detached from things, which in business generally is quite good. So I find it quite easy to do that and be like very logical in my thinking. And I think a part of that does come from adoption. I'm not very emotional, and I don't get too emotionally attached to things, which in business is good, but in my personal life it has like a more negative impact. But yeah, so I grew up with my like adopted parents, like really nice parents, and I grew up in like South London basically, and in like a nice area. I had a good upbringing, but then like in school, I really hated school, and I was very shy when I was younger as well, really shy. I didn't like talking to anyone. I was very quiet. I still am now, but I've come out my shell a lot more, and mainly through traveling, I think. But I'm very like independent as a person. Again, I think that also circles back to adoption. I've read like books on adoption, how it impacts like the development of the brain and so on. And there's some like really interesting facts, like if a baby doesn't look into it, it recognizes its own mother's eyes, and if a baby doesn't find contact with its own mother, even though like there was technically no way of me knowing I was adopted, I used to like hide food under my bed, like, or try to hide food as like a baby, because I knew that my real mother wasn't around. So it's so interesting how like the brain knows this stuff at such a young age. Like my brain is naturally thinking that I'm in not a safe location because a mother isn't around to protect me. I mean, this is when I'm just like a toddler, and I used to try and like hide food for survival, and I was reading some books on adoption about this, so I think that's quite interesting. So, and I think I've always been like very dependent and independent, sorry, and and then, but like, so in school, like I absolutely hated the way that school is taught, and how we sort of learn. So I was very rebellious as well, and I'm incredibly stubborn. But someone once told me that like being stubborn is just another term. It's a negative term for willpower. So it depends what you apply your stubbornness to. So if anyone else is very stubborn, as long as you apply stubbornness or willpower to positive aspects of your life, it's not a negative attribute to have at all. If you're stubborn towards being successful, or like whatever your goals are in life, if you apply a stubborn mentality to them, you're far more likely to, like probably hundreds times more likely to achieve those goals than someone who's very weak-minded in what they're trying to do. So I'm like, even again, like when I was younger, I think this is going to be quite a personal video. Like my father thought there was something wrong with me, and so I went to like a sort of psychologist, like therapy thing, for a few years when I was like 11 to 16. I saw him for like 5 years, going like once a month, and his end diagnosis was that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. It's just that I'm incredibly, he's the doctor, psychologist, was saying I was the most stubborn person he had met in like 25 years of practicing medicine. I get it's not something to like really be proud of, but it was actually him who told me like stubbornness is, it depends what you apply it to. If you apply it to positive aspects, if you're stubborn towards positive habits in your life, then it's a great attribute to have. So don't always like, I think the lesson from that is don't always look at things that are often considered a negative attribute to have. Like often it can depend on like the context and what you're applying that to, and it can definitely turn into a positive. But yeah, anyway, so I hated school because I hate being told what to do by people. I'm quite bad with authority as well. So I didn't write anything in any of my exams. For like now I look, it's just the most stupid thing to do, but just because I didn't want to take part in the education system, and I knew I didn't want to go on to university or anything like that. Like my parents were very academic, like they both went to university. My father was offered a place at Cambridge, which he turned down, and like they both hold like 2 degrees, and my mother has 2 degrees and a master's as well. So they were both like very academic, and they really loved it. So like I was always very different to my parents, and sort of pushing back against what they wanted me to do. And then I also like fell in with like the wrong crowd. I won't get into it like too much, so I'll try and keep this focused on business. But when I was like 15, I got very into like, I left school at 15 and never went back, with basically no qualifications, and in fact with no qualifications. And I fell in with just the people who were involved in like the wrong things at the time, like doing a lot of drugs, and I'd smoked weed. There's quite a big drug scene in London, and for basically for 2 years, like I was just originally just smoking weed every single day, which just kills productivity. I was just wasting my life literally. And then like we were doing like MDMA, just like we used to go out to illegal raves because we weren't 18 at the time, so we would go to like illegal warehouse raves and do like ecstasy, MDMA, like ketamine, and just like pretty much anything, to be honest. I wasn't that into cocaine at the time, but like later on I did more things along those lines, and I did that for like 2 years. And then like if people are interested, I can talk about this in more detail, but I'll just try and get past this as fast as possible. I then like came across like DMT when I was like 17, and I had my first DMT trip. And if anyone doesn't know what DMT is, it's a very strong psychoactive drug that is naturally found in the brain, is found in like living things everywhere. So it's a naturally occurring substance, and you release it both like when you dream and when you die. And I went into this third dimension to tell the story very quickly. And as I remember, like as I came back, I'd just sort of been told that you're just like wasting your potential. My real father had died. He drowned when he was, I think he was 21, and yeah, he was about 21 years old. So I never knew him. So when I found out this, it was a very strange reaction, because I wasn't actually that upset about it at all, because it was someone that I'd never actually known. However, like when I went in this DMT trip, it can be like a very psychological experience, like with your own mind. And it sort of said like, you know, you're doing things that your father, like he wouldn't be proud of if he could like see you now. And like what the sort of journey you're going down. Like I'd run away from home a number of times. I'd lived in a squat for months. A close friend of mine had actually died from ketamine. He fell into a river and drowned. And so I was on like a very, very like dark, negative path. And basically, yeah, this trip, I sort of had a session with myself, like my own mind telling me like, your father wouldn't be like proud of this at all. Like, also he's 21 when he died. He didn't get to experience life as well. Like, I'm sort of living on through his genes and DNA, right? Like, literally. So I need to go and have a great life for both of us, because he never got to experience that. And that was like such a profound, like, just complete changing experience for me. And it genuinely did put me on a completely different path. I went from doing drugs every single day to cold turkey, stopping absolutely everything. And because I put so many substances into my system, like not heroin or anything quite like that, but for like pretty much anything else. And I then stopped completely cold turkey. I stopped smoking cigarettes as well, which I've been smoking for several years. Bearing in mind I'm 17 when this happened, right? It's a very young age. And I went through like this cold turkey coming off drugs experience. I had like a huge ulcer, like about the size of a 50p coin for anyone in the UK, like about that size on my throat, from what the doctor said was all the toxins in my lungs being rejected, like coming back up because I quit cold turkey. And which means like not gradually coming down, it means quitting straight away, right? And so, and I couldn't eat any food. I lost like loads of weight, and I could only like eat soup and stuff. And I couldn't sleep at night. I was suffering with like insomnia, and I would just like sort of lie there. And this went on for like a few weeks, and then it sort of got back to normal. And yeah, and basically that went on for, like, I stopped doing drugs, I quit cold turkey, but then I just sort of sat in my room and didn't go out at all for months, and I lost all ability to talk to people, all like social skills, and I went even more shy than I was before. I remember going down to like a shop one day to buy like, I can't remember what it was, like chewing gum or something, and I was scared to talk to the person like serving behind the counter, which is like, it's just ridiculous, you know. Now I sort of talk about it, remember all of these moments. And yeah, so that was and that was until I was like 17. Another thing to mention as well, just before we get into this, is I used to play like a sort of computer, like online type game that had like its own economy, like RuneScape, if anyone's heard of it, when I was younger. And I actually think that taught me more about like life and business than like a majority of my like later years at school. It was basically, like, just to put it very quickly, a game where like you had your own account and you would get money, and it had like its own functioning economy within the game, so you could like buy and sell things, make money off them, go and do things to make money. And I actually had a business in that game. It was a gambling company of all things. That's one of the only types of businesses you could make, and ended up becoming like very successful in that game. And I ended up selling a load of like the like gold within the game, right, for I think about $2,000 or $3,000, because people were willing to pay real money for like pixels in this game, which was quite interesting. So and like I had like a bit of money, but most of that had sort of gone on drugs. And then when I was 17, like I said, I stopped doing any drugs, and it took me about 6 months. And my father had a like furniture company, and I went to go and work for him, like not in marketing or anything like that, just working, like helping putting this furniture together and like fitting. It was like luxury furniture, like the company did like Gordon Ramsay's kitchen. It was very like high-end kitchens, like wardrobes and things like that. So just helping like putting all these together. And the real benefit that I learned from that is having like structure in my life. Before, I had absolutely no purpose in my life whatsoever, nothing to get up for. I was going like up and down with depression. I was on antidepressants at the time actually as well. Like there's so much stuff that went on during this period that I just keep remembering things that sort of pop up. So, and then I really learned like how good it was to have like some structure in your life, purpose, something to get up for every day, rather than just like mindlessly not having any like goals or anything in your life. So that was a real turning point for me when I was like 18, and I actually had like some of my own money to go and buy things that I wanted and go and do things. And so I had a nice sense of of freedom there. And then like my father and I, we were just arguing like a lot, because I think when you're like working closely together with family, it can be like quite difficult. So I then went to go and like work in like a factory for uh, as part of his business, but I wasn't working like directly for him. I was working in the factory producing the furniture. I was taking on as like a referral there. And again, this is going to just come as a surprise to everyone, because everyone just knows me for like marketing automations and things like that. But I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get into this factory, starting work at 6 a.m. And just spending all day as just like a tea boy, is what we would say in the UK, just like a sort of helping hand for everyone, like going out making teas for people, like cleaning up, like help if someone needed like help carrying like heavy like things around the factory and so on. Like it would be my job. I was just like the like handyman, I guess would be another word for it, like labourer we would say. Just my job's to do all of the jobs that no one else wants to do, basically. But again, like these are all like parts of the journey that made me into like who I am now. Like by doing like the shit jobs, I knew what it was like to have a bad job, like, and waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and like working really hard, like for no money at all. I was earning like £1,000 a month, I think, and like about a third of that was going on my like travel expenses back and forward to the job. So I wasn't earning like serious money, and I was working so hard for it. But that taught me like a really good work ethic. So I'm so thankful that I actually did that. Like one of my friends out here in Georgia, like who again makes very good money as an affiliate marketer. He went and like basically volunteered in a cafe for like a week, and he said it just brought back just so much stuff about work ethic and working hard, and how thankful he is for the situation that he's in. So I'm really thankful for going through like these like difficult jobs and even like difficult times prior to that I mentioned, because it builds character, and like, as the saying goes, like smooth seas never made skilled sailors. So I picked up various different attributes in all these like different jobs, and so I worked there for about 7 or 8 months, and by that time I think I was like 18, and then I had like a serious relationship for like about a year actually, and I just sort of focused on that. And towards the end of that relationship, I got a job in recruitment. So recruitment, I think, is a amazing industry to go into for anyone who doesn't know what they want to do. There's opportunity to make very good money from commission and sales. The environment was like great fun to work in, like the people working there were great, but also you just pick up like a ton of different skills. Like, it's sales, communication, marketing, like management and organization. You pick up a lot of people skills because you're managing people, getting to interviews and doing all of this stuff. And like at the time, I was like really, really shy when I went there as well. And I was now getting into like a sales job where I had to like cold call people. And I remember when I first went into this job, it was like a room of like guys, like very testosterone fueled environment. And I was 19. I think I've recently turned 19, and I had to do like my first like telephone call, trying to like pitch to someone. I had never done any sales before either, and I like had the phone, and I was like talking and like trying to be really quiet so no one else could listen to what I was saying, because I was just so shy. But like they were a great bunch of guys. I learned so much there, and there was like my boss at the time, Steve, who was like he was like a 50-year-old, like very successful guy, who was like the manager at his company. Very like ruthless guy, but really, really good salesman, like brilliant salesman, probably the best I've ever seen. But he had like really, he'd been doing it for like 25 years, and he was very like sort of set in the ways and somewhat open to innovation, but not really. It took a lot of pushing to open him up to things. And after I'd been working there for like a year, I was doing pretty well. Like I wasn't far from the most successful person there, but I was definitely like a very good employee there. I think I won Employee of the Month in my first year, like two times or 3 times even. in the company. And yeah, so like I worked very hard again because I had also worked in like a factory job before, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was now working in an office. I thought this was like really easy. And I was happy working hard there because I'd been in a worse job before, so I really wanted to keep this job, and I was earning not great money again, but just better money in this recruitment job. And it's also how I first got into LinkedIn. LinkedIn was a really big channel within recruitment, sending messages. It was tech recruitment I was in as well, I should mention, sorry. So that's also how I got into software, because I just spent all day talking to developers, like mentioning these technologies and stuff that I had no idea what they actually do. Like saying like, oh, we need like a JavaScript developer with like Node.js and Angular experience. And I had no idea what Node.js or Angular was at the time. So I started to do like a bit of like research into the technologies and stuff, and yeah, just so when I was talking to people. And so I was doing like LinkedIn outreach there as well, and this was 5 years ago now. And at first I was doing it all manually, like sending out hundreds of messages per day, and I thought like there must be someone who had automated this. Again, like sort of linking everything back together. This online game that I mentioned earlier that I used to play, one thing that I did a lot was they had like bots for this game. Now, like they were against the rules to use it, same as it is for like LinkedIn. But I set up like 10 accounts on this game that the whole time were like going and cutting trees for me, or going and getting gold, like doing whatever. And then I was just trading it all back onto my like real account, and I became like very rich on the game. So I understood like automation and what it was possible to do. And so I thought someone must have made like a LinkedIn bot or automation. And at the time there wasn't anything on the market. And it took me like months like to actually find something. I was going through onto like page 7 of Google looking for like LinkedIn bots, and the tool that I found was I remember the name of the guy who owned it. His name was Laurie. What was the name of? I can't remember the name of the plugin now, but this was like really, really early stage. And the tool worked and it was good. And so I set that up on my first account, sending out hundreds of messages per day to people. And so I had actually like automated my own job. It was sending out messages to hundreds of developers, pitching them jobs, which before I was doing manually. And they were just coming back saying, yes, I'm interested. And I was just firing out CVs all over the place. And then I set up a second fake LinkedIn account, did the same on there. And I did that for like quite a long time, for like the rest of the time that I worked there, to be honest, which was another like 2 years. And during this time, I also grew to 58,000 connections on LinkedIn. I got myself to about 30,000 manually clicking. That's completely true. I had like a really good way to do it. So I was doing everything like manually, and then I discovered automation, and I got another like 28,000 connections. This is back when you could go over the 30,000 connection limit. So I had like a really big network, and someone, again, this was like another moment that sort of happened in my life that really like changed a lot of like the sort of course of my life, I guess, actually, now that I look back at it. And that was when someone messaged me. I should mention as well, I tried a few like other entrepreneurial ventures in the past. Like as a child, we would buy like multi-packets of sweets and like Coca-Cola and like, you know, just like fizzy drinks and whatever, take them into school and go and sell them. So I always had like an entrepreneurial spirit, if that's what we want to call it. Like any opportunity I saw to make money, I was always like a bit of a hustler, like looking for ways to make money. And I'd also tried like importing mobile phone cases from China that I was paying like $1 for and trying to sell them for like 30. And that was just, it was never going to work. And now I realize, this is another lesson actually, now I realize it was like a pricing issue that I had. But because I put the pricing to $30 thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to sell them for that. And like I was using Instagram marketing to grow an Instagram account. This was just my spare time. it got like 2,000 followers, but I didn't get a single sale, and I completely blamed. I was like, oh, it's like, this is a stupid business. No one wants my phone cases, whereas really the issue was like a pricing issue, and obviously I didn't understand that at the time. But that was just all part of the experience. So I'd also learned about Instagram marketing at that point. I had my own LinkedIn account, doing LinkedIn automation using a tool called Mass Planner. Over the course of like a year, I think it grew to about 45,000 followers, but we'll carry on with that part of the story in a bit. So anyway, I was doing LinkedIn automation on those two accounts. I had 58,000 connections on my personal account, and there was a project manager who messaged me, IT project manager. So I actually reached out to him for a job opportunity, and he came back to me and he said he was interested to talk to me on the phone. And like, this was like quite a like serious guy. Like, he was charging like £800 per day, which at the time was like an obscene amount of money to me. Like, it would take me like 2 weeks to earn what he was earning in a day, maybe more. And so I spoke to him. We spoke for like an hour, and he asked me, how did you get to 58,000 connections on LinkedIn? And I told him, and this was my first like real introduction into the marketing world. He told me he had his own marketing agency that he also ran on the side, whilst he wasn't being an IT contractor. And I spoke to him for about an hour, and he told me, like, you should go and set up your own business doing this. And it was him. His name is Brian. It was Brian who sort of saw the first piece of like potential in me. And at the time, I thought, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know I'm just a like 20-year-old kid. Like what do I know about business? But really, like, I just didn't realize that what I was able to do delivered a lot of value for a lot of people in a lot of companies. Like, I was just doing it in recruitment. I was paid a salary, and I thought, like, that's sort of as far as it goes. But it was him who sort of told me that, and we spoke for ages, and we like sort of kept in touch, and I like really looked up to him. Like, he actually watches my videos now. He's going to see this. It's going to be a bit embarrassing him hearing this, but like, he was older. He was like way more successful than I was. And yeah, so I like really looked up to him, but I didn't believe in myself at the time. Even though he had told me you should go and set up a business, I just sort of came off the call thinking, he's got no idea. I'm just a little 21-year-old guy trying to make a living in recruitment. So then I just sort of went on doing what I was doing for about 3 months, and I put a few gigs up on Fiverr, and and I would go and like people's posts from my LinkedIn account with 58,000 connections, and I was charging like $5 just for a like $15 for a like and a comment, and like $30 for a like and a comment and a share. And I started getting regular orders, almost like every other day. I would have an order come in, and at the time that like added on as a lot of like that was nice income for me, because I was like really struggling with money at the time. Like, I just didn't really have any, and I also didn't know how to manage money at the time at all. That was probably the bigger issue. And yeah, and I started getting like regular orders for that, and then I once I saw that was happening, I put up another service on Fiverr offering to grow people's LinkedIn accounts for them, getting them followers. And I can't remember the exact pricing, but I like told people I would get them like 30,000. Like, there were a few different plans. One was like 1,000 LinkedIn connections for like $30. Next one was like 5,000 LinkedIn connections for like $80. And I can't remember what the pricing was, but to get 30,000 connections for someone, I said $1,200. I was never in my life expecting anyone to order that, and I remember I had, one day I received an order from a guy in Sarasota, Florida, who owned a car rental company, I think it was, who had paid $1,400 to someone that he had never heard of before, paid over Fiverr to get him 30,000 LinkedIn connections. And that was like the first point that I realized that was like my whole month's salary as well. And I could just automate the whole thing for him, getting him 30,000 connections. And that was the first time that I realized that there was like real money to be made doing this kind of stuff. And just to like a couple of other points as well, I will admit like the time frames are slightly off here. I'd seen like people on YouTube like traveling in Bali. There's a guy like Lost LeBlanc. I don't know if anyone knows his YouTube channel. He's quite big. I'd seen him with like his good-looking girlfriend in Bali, like living the dream, like walking around a beach making YouTube videos. And I decided that I didn't want to live the office life anymore, like the 9-to-5 job. But at the time when I watched that video, it just seemed like a way off dream. And yeah, and it seemed impossible to me. But now I'd actually had that income coming online. This guy had ordered. Now this was about probably 6 months, a year after watching that initial video of like the digital nomad lifestyle and stuff, that I thought, shit, this is actually possible. I'd also started building a camper van. Originally, like my goal was to drive around the whole of the world, and in the end, my businesses ended up taking off, so that wasn't possible. But I self-built a camper van. I did the whole conversion. I'll put some pictures up in this video. I did the whole conversion myself. Like solar panel on the roof, like custom interior. Before it was like a Iceland delivery van. Iceland is like a supermarket, so it was a delivery van prior, and I did the whole conversion to turn it into a camper van. I drove around the whole of Europe in it. And I'd also, at the time, I had like a girlfriend who was like a Lithuanian girl. She was like a model, very, very good looking girl. And we were going through like we've been together for like a year at the time, and we'd gone through like a breakup. Basically, we were going through a breakup, and I just didn't want to admit it. And she was like working as like a hostess in like the south of France, which is like a really luxury part of France, like just millionaires and billionaires. Like it's almost, if you haven't got a yacht and a Ferrari and 2 Russian girlfriends, like you're not welcome. It's part of like the club that she was involved in at the time. And so I was like seeing these like Instagram posts and stuff that my girlfriend was putting up. So it's very like close to home, with like, you know, 2,000 euro bottles of champagne. And so I also had like, we sort of broke up just after that, and I had like a huge motivation that like, I don't want to be like sitting in an office in a 9-to-5 when there are people out here living like, not that I care about bottles of champagne, but just, I don't know, I thought I was being like completely, just looking at what these other people are doing, that like, I didn't want to live like a 9-to-5 life whilst there's other people out there living like doing whatever they want to do. So I had a huge motivation, which was the reason I built the camper van, because I thought I just want to get out of here. I want my own freedom to be able to go and do whatever I want. And I worked out a camper van would be the best way for me to travel, because I haven't got to pay Airbnb or hotel expenses every night. And so I wanted to work remotely, and I remember Googling jobs for remote working companies, and that is how I came across Hotjar. Hotjar is like a website plugin. It's the first SaaS company that I ever worked for, and I spoke to Mark, who was a co-founder, and I spoke to David, who's the founder, and they offered me a part-time position. And at the time, I was also working still in my other recruitment job, and I was just working for them for like a couple of days a month, for Hotjar for a couple of days a month, and I was getting like another 1,000 euros from there, plus I had my previous salary. So I was actually able to start funding my like camper van conversion and like fueling my dreams to go around the world. I also had like 1 or 2 LinkedIn clients, plus the regular them asking for likes, for me to like people's posts. So that was the first time that I ever sort of broke the sort of 2,000, 3,000 euro or $2,000, $3,000 per month mark. And I think you need to sort of be at that range to have some level of freedom. So yeah, and I went on to work for Hotjar for like a year, and then at that point, I'll just pick up. I had gained like sort of 35,000 Instagram followers by that point, and I taught myself HTML and CSS programming. When I say taught myself, in fact, it's not even programming. I learnt how to edit HTML and CSS templates. I've got a video of this on my YouTube channel if you want to learn how to do this as well. And that was how I set up my first business. So because again I was working in recruitment, I was also interested to learn more about technology and how things are working. So I learned how to set up my own server, like deploy websites on there and so on, which is a lot more simple than it sounds. And I learned how to like change all the text on the website and so on, link everything together. At the time I was using PayPal for payments, and I set up an Instagram marketing website. I set up a Twitter marketing website and a LinkedIn marketing website. The Instagram marketing website ended up being the most successful, and what I did was I commented on a number of Reddit threads doing a bit of like black hat marketing. Like I was at the time as well, like I was just a sponge for information. Once I built my first website, I was just obsessed with how do I get customers, and I just spent ages reading through Black Hat World, any other like online forums I could find, articles, some YouTube videos, although I really struggled to find good content on YouTube, which was part of the motivation behind making this channel. I just found there's a lot of fluff on there and people just trying to sell you on their $2,000 course. Anyway, so yeah, I just became a sponge for marketing content, and I came up with the on Black Hat World there was a service where you could pay to have your Reddit comments upvoted. So I would find Reddit threads that had people asking like, how can I grow on Instagram, what's the best Instagram marketing service, and I would go and comment my own service, pay for Reddit upvotes so I would get into the highest ranked position. And I did about 10 or 20 of these, and one comment brought me in about 3 new customers per day. People were paying $40 each. At the time, I was growing the business by $120 in recurring revenue every single day. And like aside from like cancellations, then I had that business to about $4,000 per month as well. So that was almost like an element of luck that I sort of stumbled across that method. And I was managing people's Instagram accounts. Like people loved the results as well. That was the other thing, is compared to like a lot of the other services, I was getting like good results for people. Unfortunately, it's not really possible anymore, but at the time, like people were so happy. I had like one girl, she signed up, she had an agency and moved all her clients over, so I got that business to doing about $4,000 per month in like stable revenue. Plus I have my job in recruitment, plus €1,000 per month from Hotjar, plus some other like LinkedIn stuff, like I said. And then I also put up things on like People Per Hour, which is like another alternative to Fiverr. I had someone there paying me $500 per month. So that was the first good bit of revenue that I had. And even then, I was still so scared to leave my full-time job. But by that point, I decided I like have to make the move. Actually, no, that's not what happened. I spoke to Hotjar, and I was offered a full-time job by Hotjar. And Hotjar are like a fantastic company. Like they are really, really cool guys. And to be honest, the relationship ended up a bit sour completely on my part, because so my business was taking off, and Hotjar offered me a full-time job. I handed in my notice at my original recruitment job to go and join Hotjar full-time, and I had basically a month to go and do what I wanted. So I went off and I just did like a road trip around the UK for a few weeks, testing out the camper van. I joined Hotjar. They offered me a salary of €4,000 per month. So I had 4,500 even, I think. I tripled my salary from before, plus I had these other income streams. That was the first time in my life I actually started making like decent money. And so I was like 22 at this time, making about $10,000 per month. And then what happened, I just remember it was, actually no, I think I was 20, I was about to turn 22. I was 21 at this time. And then just as my birthday, I was 22, my birthday had just gone, and I bought a software as a service platform on a website called Code Canyon, where they sell like prepackaged software platforms, because I noticed that they built an Instagram automation tool. And I realized that by running my agency, I was the only person offering it. So there was a limit to how much I could like scale this business. So I bought this software platform for $500, I think, and uploaded it, learned how to set up the server again. Like it was not too complicated. And I again did the same Reddit thing. I was pushing traffic to there. At the time, I was charging $5 per month for it, and I had about 100 customers, and that was making $5 per month. I remember I bought that the day before my birthday, 15th of August. So then my birthday came, and I turned 22, and then I joined Hotjar. And like I was just getting into everything, but I'd also seen all these. I joined Hotjar full time, and Hotjar works remotely. Like you can go and check their website and see their like careers benefits. They're like the most flexible, coolest company you could ask to work for. And so but then what happened is I'd seen like all my other Instagram competitors, or a lot of them were doing like Facebook ads. And I had tried a little Facebook ads campaign before, and I lost money on it. And so like loads of people who get burned when they lose like $100 on an ads campaign, they think, oh, that's not a workable acquisition channel, which is the most stupid thing to think ever. I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't spend long enough testing on it. So I thought, but of course, like, they must be making a profit. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to be spending all this money on Google Ad. And so I tried another campaign, and I got it to be profitable. And before I knew like what was happening, like bearing in mind, like now you can see how much stuff I had going on in my life, right? I had LinkedIn clients. I quit my job in recruitment. I went to go and work for Hotjar. I had a full-time job at Hotjar. I had my Instagram agency. I had an Instagram software platform, LinkedIn stuff coming in like here and there. And yeah, so I was like busy. And then I set up this ads campaign, and this business just took off, to be honest. I was so skeptical, and I was starting off so slowly as well. I could have grown it way faster if I'd been more confident. But essentially, like the business grew from like I made it profitable, and the business grew from like $500 per month to $90,000 in what was it? It was about $87,000 in monthly recurring revenue. I got it there in 90 days. I was the only person working there. There was no other help from anyone else. And because this happened, like I was just so involved in like support and stuff that I couldn't continue working at Hotjar. It just wasn't possible for me to keep working with them. So that relationship ended up going a bit sour, and because I wasn't able to give like my full attention to Hotjar, like I wasn't able to feel like my job to my full like capabilities, which resulted in the relationship going completely sour, to be honest. But anyway, I was like 22 years old now. I turned 22 about 2 months ago at the time, and I was making like just stupid amounts of money. I shut down other companies, so I didn't have the time to focus on them. And then like that went on until after Christmas that year. So it was about early October time that I started that. And then just after Christmas, and then I carried on that business for like another 2 months. It was still growing. And I was working on like optimizing things, and started like, now I was getting more comfortable because this all happened so rapidly. This was the first large company I'd ever built, and it was just a complete learning curve for me. I learned so much on it, but like it took a while for me to like really get to grips with everything. And that's also when I got into conversion rate optimization. And then, so I was 22 years old. That business, if it hadn't been closed down, by the end of the year, it would have been making about $2.2 million per month if I was able to sustain the growth that I had at that current time. But unfortunately that didn't happen. I received a cease and desist letter from Facebook. I spoke to again, I was like, just looking back on it now, I realise how like silly things got. I received a cease and desist letter from Facebook, and I was forced to like shut down the business. I spoke to my solicitor, my lawyer, who basically tried to scare me into paying her like £5,000 to reply back to one email, just to reply back to an email. And she was saying like, you could be looking at extradition to the USA, 60 years in prison. And like I completely took her for her word. I believed what she was saying, which now I see as like completely false. There's just no way that it would have happened. She was giving an example of a guy who was being extradited from Lithuania for like making hundreds of millions of dollars off Facebook data. And she was giving that as an example, saying like, this is going to be you, like they'll make an example of you. So she was just trying to scare me into paying her a fee. And like she had her other colleague on the phone, like really, trying to like scare me that this was going to happen. And so I thought I was looking at a 60-year prison sentence for an Instagram company. Bearing in mind, she had looked over my business before and qualified that everything was like completely legal. So, but anyway, I was just in like a state of shock, and shutting down a business like that, like you've put so much effort into it and it's making so much money, and then you're going back to zero. That was that was difficult. I'll be completely honest with you. I was, you sort of lose your purpose. I felt like my purpose at that time, I was so invested in it, and I saw myself as being like a successful guy. Like I'd done this, and then it all sort of disappeared in like that. It was the last thing I was ever expecting. And then there was like sort of ongoing negotiations with Facebook that went on for a while. There was like a consulting offer to help with them stopping Instagram automation that I never went ahead with, obviously. And then it just sort of fizzled out. I never got charged with anything. I shut down the business, obviously, but they were asking for all sorts of stuff. They wanted all our customers' information. They wanted all our payments history. They wanted all the revenue that I made. Like they wanted everything, and there was just no way that I could do that. So, like in the end, I actually just ignored their last email that they sent about 2 years ago, and I just sort of fizzled away. But anyway, the day after the cease and desist letter came in, sorry, just to qualify as well, when I say Facebook, it like Instagram owned Facebook, right? So it was Facebook as a representation of Instagram that sent the cease and desist letter. So I was permanently banned from Facebook and Instagram, which actually I think they did me a favor at the end of the day, because I feel much better mentally not having access to these platforms. But anyway, and the day after that business got shut down, I was like I was thinking of ideas, and I noted down like what are all the things that I can do to make money. And it took like about a day or two later, the idea that I came up with was Notify, because in that previous business, the one that was shut down, the Instagram marketing SaaS platform, I was spending about $2,500 per month on website plugins because of how much traffic I was pushing to the website. So for using like social proof, email collection tools, onboarding messages, like displaying reviews on the website, using like embedding reviews in like Google Search Console. I was paying for and then Zapier to integrate everything together, like Intercom for tracking user actions. Like I was spending like fortunes on, like if we put it into context, like $30,000 per year. It's a lot of money. So I actually set out to build Notifier originally just to be an internal tool that I would use on my next project. And then I actually realized, why not just make it public? So that's exactly what I did. I then met Goga, who is a Georgian developer. We met each other through Upwork. Very good friend of mine. Really, really good person. Really, really nice person. And we're still working on Notifier together for this day, as well as several other projects. One of the, probably the best developer I know of, actually. And yeah, and we started working on building Notifier together. And yeah, one regret I do have with Notifier actually is that he was just working on it part-time. And at the time, I was sitting on like a nice amount of money to start a new business because of my previous company. And I should have asked him to work like full-time on it and leave his current job, but I didn't do that. So it took us a lot longer to get Notifier like on the ground. Now I look back on it, that is something I regret. But anyway, I was so stressed out of all like the legal stuff. I'd built that camper van and I went off and drove around Europe for about a month. I drove all the way down to like Croatia. There's a festival called Outlook Festival that I've been to when I was 18, and I drove down there. Like the festival wasn't on, but it's in like an abandoned fort, and I just went there just to go and see what it was like when the festival isn't on. I drove, yeah, literally all over Europe. I had a really great time. I went like mountain climbing, and then I like came back because my girlfriend said that she missed me, and there was like pressure from her to sort of come back. And then I just sort of stayed in the UK, sort of doing a little bit of marketing and reading quite a lot of books as well. And then my girlfriend and we went off traveling around Europe for 3 months. My girlfriend at the time, like I can share some pictures of that. And then Notifier was in like a sort of ready position for us to release. So it took about 6 or 7 months for us to release like the tools that I sort of wanted to be there. And then we like released it, everything was good, and then I spent like a year building Notifier, like just sort of marketing Notifier. Goga and I, the developer that I mentioned, sort of worked remotely, and then I also set up like a marketing agency with a friend of mine, but I realized I was the one sort of doing all the work. I was bringing in the clients and he had no marketing experience, so I was doing all the marketing as well. So I sort of stepped away from that. Then I've got like a few other businesses that I can't really go into like detail of. And yeah, now we're sort of up to like the current time of just continuing to like work on Notifier. So I've been talking straight for like 52 minutes about the story, so I don't want to go into like to sort of bore everyone off, but just to like put some, I'm getting a bit tired as well, but to put like some closing points on it is just remember with YouTube, it's me putting out like the best version of myself, but not only me, it's like everyone else doing it. So I just wanted to share this. I've given a very like honest representation of like my past with like drugs, and that it's not that I was always like a really very like successful person. Like I've worked in a factory doing like the worst jobs that there are, and I've sort of brought myself up to be here. But also like on YouTube, I'm only showing like my successes. Like every day I have like failures and like lose money and whatever else. So just remember that with all other like YouTubers as well. Same on like Instagram. Like when you see these YouTubers like driving around in like Lamborghinis or like Ferraris or whatever, realize that it's often just being used as like a marketing ploy to get you to go and buy their course. Like to get a Lamborghini on finance, you can do it for like even a Ferrari. I think it's like $1,500 per month. It's not huge amounts of money. And if they're just selling these courses because you believe that they own that Lamborghini, it's all very fake. So I try and keep my YouTube channel very like authentic and genuine as possible. Like I'm in an Airbnb worth like $30 per night. Like I'm not showing off, not trying to show off anything. Like this is genuinely like how I live. Everything's very like authentic. But people had the I think impression that I'm like really successful, and I guess success is just a matter of it depends on the person's point of view, right? To some people maybe I am very successful, but to myself, when I see like other people in the same industry as me and what they're doing, for me it's like I'm just like I'm not where I want to be. Like you always with like once you achieve one goal, you need to like keep pushing higher. So I wanted to give like a really real video on yeah, just on me. Like it's not always successful as an entrepreneur. Like there's ups and downs. Like when I'm putting videos of I don't know, like there's a video of me like making like $80,000 in a day. Trust me, it's not without me losing a load of money on other days on like testing strategies or like putting a ton of work in like behind the scenes. Like it's quite easy to make yourself look very successful on YouTube. And I think that like I think yeah, people even I don't know, I just got the impression with some messages that people thought I was a lot more successful than I actually am. Like I'm maybe for a 24-year-old in context I'm like successful, but still my goals are way higher than where I am currently. Like I'm always pushing myself to try and achieve more, so I don't feel like satisfied at all. And I'm happy and proud of things that I've achieved, but there's still a very long way to go. Yeah, and like the other thing that I would say is don't wait for the right time to start your business. This is for anyone who hasn't started a business. There's never a right time. Like now I look back on it, I should have started my businesses earlier. And like I said, it was this guy Brian who is into marketing. He was the first person who ever told me I'd be a millionaire as well. And at the time, I did not believe him at all. And now it's I'm not a millionaire yet, but certainly like well on the way to being there in this lifetime, 100%. So have more like self-belief in yourself. If your business fails, like who cares? Don't invest fortunes of money into it. Bootstrap your business. And to date, I've never actually had a business fail other than being sued. It's never been because I can't acquire customers or so on. I've all been sued once by Facebook or not sued, but threatened to be sued, and I had to shut it down in order to avoid that. But yeah, just go and set something up. Like you're never going to have the perfect like situation. I was waiting for like everything to be perfect and thought I needed loads of money in the bank. When I started my first business, I had like $100, probably £80 in my bank account. I bought a domain, I bought hosting, and I set up an email. And I taught myself HTML and CSS because I didn't want to pay a monthly fee to like Shopify or Wix or something. So I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the working capital. So like really there's no excuses. I think it does just come down to yourself and whether you have like the skill set to do it. But again, when I first set up my first business, I didn't have anywhere near the skill set I had now. I learned everything on the job. I had no idea about marketing or anything like that. And I taught myself everything. So you can 100% do that. I've got no university degree. I've got no school qualifications. Like this is all self-taught, and it's just about your mindset towards things. Like if you think your situation's never going to change, 100% it never will. You need to go out there and make it change and like fight for it to change. And yeah, I think just go out there and do something. Also like I just think share like quickly, just maybe to be more like open about revenue. I think I don't know, people thought I made like millions. So this is gonna be, let me just I can't turn the camera around. Just watching some stupid videos. Like now you can set up businesses, like online businesses. So today, this is accepted transactions in the last 24 hours. This is $4,100. That is all profit, and that's just from like one business. But I'm co-founder of that, so half of it is mine. And like, so what I was going to say, is about having like multiple different revenue streams. So you don't need to make huge amounts. Like that is like a very profitable business for us. But then I've also got 7. I don't even know the answer. It's getting late now. It's now 2:30. I think I've got about 8 other different revenue streams all coming in to like make it makes it much easier having like multiple different smaller revenue streams in place, that then lead up to like a large amount of revenue. And it also, more than ever with things like coronavirus happening, if one business is affected by coronavirus but you've got 7 other streams of revenue, really or not, it really doesn't matter. So like that's just one business, so that was $4,000 today. And then like another business, obviously Notifier has done today, I can't actually show that, it's got people's emails in it, $211. And then another business, $300 today, and they're in subscriptions as well, $300 in new subscriptions. So if I maintain that for a month, it's an extra like $9,000 per month in revenue. And then we've obviously got like growthhacking.io, which people are more going for like the lifetime deal. In the past month we did like $20,000, but yeah, it was just one new subscription today, $50. And then I have like like growth hacking courses guide, and another like marketing agency that I have as well. What other streams of income do we have? I can't remember now. It's 2:30 in the morning. My brain shuts down past this point. But like that's just to show like 2 things. Number one, to be completely on like about where everything is. Like I want to be as open and honest and transparent about just about like myself and like the channel. So like that's like the revenue for today. And it's not like every day is like that, you know, there's ups and downs. I think every month I probably do like $30,000 in profit on average, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, it just varies from month to month. So but it's not like I've got like a Lamborghini or I don't know, anything like that. Like I've just bought a nice apartment. I prefer spending money on things that make you money. Stocks is the other thing that it's another stream of income that I have. But yeah, also like just because like if you have one business, like I actually prefer setting up multiple businesses was the actual point of showing that, rather than relying on one stream of income. So just go out there and set up a few little businesses, even if one just makes you a few $100s per month. I've got like 3 streams of income that only make $100 per month, or like less than $1,000, let's say. And but it adds up. Honestly, it all adds up. Like after a year, it's it does add up to a substantial amount of money. Like you could pretty much pay a mortgage just of these small little side hustles that require no input whatsoever. Yeah, I think like I'll leave the video here. Like I'm getting tired now. I've been talking for like an hour straight, but I hope that you found this video interesting. I'm moving into like a new apartment tomorrow. This is just like a Airbnb whilst the refurbishment is not going on, but whilst I'm like sort of moving in there. But once that's done, I'm going to have like a proper studio to make more like videos. Any questions about like my life, I think I can't have been more transparent than I have now. Yeah, feel free to leave a comment or ask a question. I'll be happy to get back to you. Other than that, I think I need to clean up and go to bed. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you have watched like all the way through this hour and 3 minutes of me talking, I genuinely do really appreciate you watching and all like the support that I get on this channel. Yeah, so thank you from me. Other than that, I will say good night and see you in the next video.